Welcome to Roll for Crit. Today we are looking at another Kickstarter preview game. It is called Kingdom Rush Rift in Time from Lucky Duck Games. It is the latest in their line of app adaptation games, bringing them from the digital world to the tabletop format. And this one in particular is a tower defense game. It's cooperative and it's for between 1 and 4 players.
Yes, in this game you will have to defend the kingdom from the hordes of monsters spawning from the portal and hopefully close them before it's too late. If 7 monsters are able to escape the kingdom, you've lost all the health and the future is lost. Game setup is based on different scenarios. We have a random layout here, and depending on the number of players, you will actually have different plots you're allowed to interact with. We have some towers already laid out here, but if you're playing with more people, I might not be able to build here. I may only have to watch these two, which means you have to be a bit more careful with how you take on these enemies. Usually the game board starts off with nothing on them. You'll place your towers so we have so. Most towers do damage through tiles, so you just lay them out, make sure they fit is the only thing. They don't have to be efficient, but usually you want them to be. And you may not be able to completely cover everything, which will explain what happens there. Heroes will then move on to places or use their abilities if they have range or dealing damage there. They have their own little damage tiles to deal damage. And there's also soldiers that can be placed onto tiles as well. Now, after you've decided to do all your abilities and move them on, you're then going to see if you've destroyed anything. For example, I've destroyed that, conveniently. What happens is you will then take all the damage off, remove the tile, then look at the back and have a number of crystals. That is pretty much your sort of reward and experience for you to buy things a little later on. If it isn't destroyed, it's going to move. Now, usually if it moves, it just moves one space over unless it has some speed abilities. But if it has a figure or a soldier on it, they will slow it and keep it in place. The hero does take damage for that while the soldier gets removed, but you know, holding something in place to give you that extra round can be extremely important. After everything is all said and done, you're going to go for spawning more. Depending on the rules, there could be multiple spawns, but you pretty much take a tray, take the next card off the pre-made deck that they tell you to set up and put it there. If you hit these purple cards, that's your end game. These are portals. Now there could be 1 or more portals in the deck, but once you defeat them, the game is over. You just finish up the round to make sure you don't die. But the portals are special. They usually have some cool, weird abilities. Like these monsters, for example, can't actually be covered with figures because they're flying. And they'll have a symbol in the center telling you that it can't be damaged by towers unless they're of that strength or greater. So, for example, this needs 2 or higher. Sometimes they're 3 or higher, so it's very important to level up your towers.
Now, when you placed your towers out onto the different spots that you wanted earlier in the round, you may have kept some of those in your hand and not put them on the board. That's because anything that you didn't play, you get to pass to the player to your left. Hi, there you go. And it's going to go into their received towers spot. And at the end of the round, you get to upgrade whatever was sent to you that way. So it would go from, for instance, this level 1 mage would become a level 2 adept. So that's one way you can get stronger and stronger towers. The other way is you can spend those crystals that we talked about earlier that you get as rewards for defeating enemies. It is 2 crystals for any one of these level 1 towers. So you might want to specifically get a new type of tower that you already had or that you find more useful. Could be a multitude of reasons. You could also spend those crystals on special abilities for your heroes. Each hero has 2 special powers that they can use in addition to their basic attack they always have. And when you get them, they go into these slots. When you use them, they flip over, so you don't get to use them again right away until later. But they're generally strong, powerful abilities. For instance, this guy lets you actually heal under certain circumstances, or he can move on to multiple places and damage multiple squares in one turn. Which is obviously something that would be beneficial to your group. At this point, you'll also have taken these tower cards back into your hand. So the things that you place out from round to round do not stay out on the field. They actually change each time. So you can decide next round if you want to change their positioning, change the way they were facing. Who knows, because that could also change depending on what new enemies come out, where they are exactly. Of course, these guys are ranged, so maybe you want to be able to hit someone further away. All kinds of strategic reasons you might want to hit something.
Another big important thing is, since you get back everything you played, let's say you played most of your cards and your ally didn't, passed a bunch to you, you could have different hand sizes in different rounds. So like right now, Jonathan only has 2 cards while I have 4. That's not usually as big of importance, I've noticed, in the 2-player, because usually you have a lot of plots. But you know, if I only had 2 or 3 plots to work with and I now have 4, it means I'm not either, we're hoping I can upgrade for the next player, or I'm not going to be very efficient.
Yeah, it is all about maximizing efficiency. It really is one big puzzle game. There's kind of the larger puzzle you just talked about strategically, trying to make sure everyone has the best cards that fit their needs. And then there are these smaller puzzles, which are much more literally puzzle-like in a Tetris way, where you're trying to, again, be the most efficient in terms of covering these up without wasting any space. And a lot of your turns are spent trying to figure out what is the best way to use our guys together to make sure they're all being used to the best of their abilities, and we can stop whatever we can stop without letting them run off the board and hurt us.
Yeah, this is based on a tower defense app, which I will say, because the towers return back each turn, it feels less like that, where I think you're thinking about building an engine that almost works by itself in defeating things. This feels more like a deck builder. It still has that engine building, but not the like Euro stays on the board, because you have to take things back in the hand. You have to decide, I'm going to upgrade this turn or play it. Like, it feels a bit like you're not thinking about how the board state's going to be able to run on its own.
Yeah, you're kind of a little bit more free to change your mind about things. If you put something in a bad spot, it'll be gone next turn, so you can just rearrange it, which is definitely different from most tower defense games. And also in the same way, you know, the enemies aren't like attacking your buildings at all. They're just going straight through. Although, you know, there's different enemies and different weird scenarios, so rules could change. Those things might happen. In any case, the end goals of these different things might change. There's also different maps that you can use, of course. Then they're double-sided usually, so depending on what the scenario says, you could have all kinds of different weird layouts going on.
Multiple spawn points, so you have to actually attack from different areas, and which way to rotate your tower.
And we had 4 heroes with this preview copy, but looks like there were going to be 8, possibly more in the final version, so you can take a look at that, see what kind of stretch goals or expansions they have going on that we don't know 100% of the things about.
We mostly played with the 2 heroes near us, and they definitely felt different. Mine was supposed to be like a ranger who has more range attacks, so I don't need to be on the board to take damage, but I can sort of do this spread shot thing to fill up 4 single squares, which at first you're like, oh, that's only 4. Single squares aren't that great, but then you're like, oh, I can be more efficient because you can cover that last one there and there. And so.
Yeah, we found those single squares, like the cards that send out soldiers, can be really useful, because when you can just fill in that one last little spot that you didn't have the best piece for, or sometimes like with a portal, this happens more often, I feel, where it's difficult to cover things up because there's just more going on, and you might run out of space, where like you have this L shape and there's just literally nowhere you can actually put it. So that's really the fun of the game, is figuring out those puzzle mechanics. So even though it has this kind of tower defense shell, the core of it, like we've been saying, is really this puzzle game that definitely feels a little bit different. But I think it does a good job as a co-op game, forcing people to work together. Like we said, you have your own hands and your own plots, so one person can't just put their stuff wherever they want. You really do have to collaborate and discuss what is your best course of action for each round. And I think if you like tower defense games, it's definitely worth taking a look at this. You just have to be prepared for it to be maybe a little bit different from what you're used to in the digital format of the games.
Yeah, in particular, because most tower defense I think of are single player, you know?
Yeah, generally, yeah. I mean, you could draw some lines between this and other board games like Castle Panic or those types of games. But yeah, in general, the digital versions are usually just one person.
And this, I think, is a lot more interesting when you have like 4 people with different plots, because you can't just be on your building towers by yourself. You have to think like, all right, I can only take out this area. And if we know, like, for example, let's say there are guys with magic resistance, and I know it's going to be coming next to here, I want to make sure that Jonathan pass me your non-magic cards if you can pass me like a stronger artillery, because then I can just bomb that.
Yeah, definitely. I also like these little slider things. They're a nice little solution for making it easy to have your enemies move around.
And to pick up and clean, because you just go like this and pop. There you go.
Yeah, and you have to say pop.
Oh, you do.
That's part of the game. It's in the rules. So Kingdom Rush, that's the game. That's what it is. Maybe you want to check it out. It is on Kickstarter right now, and we do have a link in our description for where you can go and potentially back this game. It's from Lucky Duck, and we'd also like to hear from you in the comments if you did do that, or if you have some other suggestions for a future game you want us to preview or review or whatever in the future.
Yes, of course, as you said, let us know down below, but we're also on Facebook, Instagram, our website. You can a nice little form for you to fill out. If you really want to visit us, we're in a tower. We'd like to hide away, so I wouldn't suggest that method.
Yeah, don't go up there unless you have some the Holy Order. That's what you're going to need to get through us. All right, so this has been Kingdom Rush, and this has been Roll for Crit, and I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome board game content from Roll for Crit.
And please leave a comment. We're lonely.